I just think it's going to be really hard to find common ground.
No, I thought about this over the weekend, wrote a column for the Post, which is in the Post this morning on the front page, on the landing page. And people in the Republican Party have to attack the Democratic package, but you can't attack everything. They've got to be for some things in order to be against the whole. And the things I would be for are the child tax credit, so that they can say, we are all for that and we're against bailing out state pension funds. Because I don't think there's any American very happy. Go ahead.
If I actually one-up you here, I would say there's a lot of things they're going to be for. They're going to be for the vaccine money. They're going to be for a host of other provisions in this bill, which are broadly bipartisan, but they would argue do the things that you could agree on first and then leave the rest for something else. But that, of course, is silly legislative strategy, right? You don't only do the things that are bipartisan first and then just, fight over a couple tough things. You put them all together to try to force someone's hand. So,
but Jake, if you're a Republican who believes that inflation will come and that a lot of this money will be wasted, and that's me and it's most of the people in the caucus, you make sure that everybody agrees on the same 3 or 4 things to be for: infrastructure, the child tax credit, and you say it a million times so that the messaging gets through, so that you're not the party of no, you're the party of not that, this. And to be the party of not that, this, you've got to have everybody saying it, and you've got to stop attacking each other. You can't have Matt Gaetz running off to Wyoming to attack Liz Cheney. You can't have the Arizona State Republican Party voting crazy censure motions. You can't have a lot of crazy stuff. Does party discipline return to the GOP?
Yes, I think in some way. I mean, Gaetz is no. I mean, yes and no. I think that the 98% of the party is going to, I had a Republican aide say to me the other day, we need to get back to shirts and skins, right?
Yes.
Republicans with
yes.
Republicans, Democrats with Democrats. I don't think that I think that some people will be on that shirts and skins in that configuration, and some will still see it as advantageous to fight each other. Those are people like Matt Gaetz.
Well, that will become, I think, it may appeal to the farthest right 10% to see Republicans attacking other Republicans, but people who want the House back in 2022 know that's a loser. That's just an absolute loser, and they've got to get the House back in the year of redistricting, or they're not going to get it back for 10 years.
I think that's right, and I think Kevin McCarthy, who, as you know very well, was almost Speaker in 2015, had to drop out of the race, and now sees the speakership as his main goal. And he needs to get there. This is his one chance to get there, because he's not – I can't imagine if they miss this time he'll stick around. Maybe he will. I guess it depends how close they get. But you're not going to win. I mean, I had another Republican aide say to me, we need to get off the front pages for a little bit. Obviously, the proverbial front pages, but also the literal front pages. I think one of my colleagues at the Washington Post, one of my friends at the Washington Post, said that Marjorie Taylor Greene was on the front page of the Washington Post 3 days in a row. I mean, this is not what the party wants to be talking about.
Although that's very good for the Beltway Manhattan media bubble, they don't understand what's going on in the country, because the last 3 days people haven't been talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene. They've been talking about the Super Bowl. And so it's a great time to bury her. But I do want to go back to this idea of being for something and making sure they articulate it. Does the McCarthy gang have a tie to every state's redistricting process? Are they monitoring it all?
Yes, they are, and so is the NRCC. And the NRCC is really run by Kevin McCarthy and not by – I mean, it's run by Tom Emmer of Minnesota, but Kevin McCarthy has a very heavy hand in the NRCC in understanding the party's politics. So nothing is going to catch them by surprise. And remember, Republicans have a very, very well-funded outside group, Congressional Leadership Fund, and the American Action Network, which raises $100 and something million every year. Or every cycle, and spends that money. So, yes, they have a lot of eyes on this stuff.
Okay, inside baseball that I'm looking for Punchbowl News to tell me about. The longtime head of the Chamber of Commerce, Tom Donahue, quit finally, and that was expected for a long time. He's been replaced by a lady, I can't remember her name. She's a liberal. She's a lefty, and she is taking the Chamber of Commerce hard left. What do the Republicans do about that?
Well, the Chamber of Commerce has already signaled, Hugh, that they want to be sympathetic and they want to be working with Democrats anyway. So the Chamber of Commerce has really not been a Republican entity for a long time, and I don't mean that in a glib way. But for the last couple cycles, or the last cycle at least, they've signaled that they are not going to be behind Republicans. Mitch McConnell and the Republican leadership broadly, I don't want to say McConnell, but the Republican leadership broadly really doesn't want much to do with them at this point because they're not representing Republicans or supporting Republicans.
But have they seen their membership fall? Because I think when the public understands that the Chamber of Commerce has gone way left and is now backing Democrats, their Main Street members are going to say, I'll go find a new group. And there's some new groups out there, just like there's an AMAC to replace AARP. There will rise up the Small Business Owners Coalition. There are all sorts of different groups out there. Bernie Marcus has got one going as well, Job Creators Alliance. Are small and medium business owners getting that the chamber has deserted them?
I don't know. I don't know about that, but I do know that in Washington, it doesn't carry the. I mean, you used to be able to see that the chamber came out for something or came out against something, and it would have been a big deal. Now it's just really, it just really lands with almost no impact at all.
That's because Republicans don't pay any attention anymore and Democrats don't trust them. I mean, you can never switch sides if you're playing shirts and skins, and that's what D.C. usually does. Last question, Jake. I wrote in my column today that the divide has never been bigger between Republican and Democrat. There has never been less of a center. Do you agree with me?
Yeah, I think that people want to try to create a center, but I don't think that's like the Problem Solvers Caucus, but they don't know how to execute on that. And they're not actually the center because they're far left and far right partisans in the group that use the group as a means to get bipartisan cover. But completely agree. The center is fading. Yes, I completely agree with that. 100%.
It makes for an interesting 2 years that you're going to be covering. Punchbowlnews.com. Go sign up for their morning email. I read it every day. It's actually nonpartisan. It's actually good, objective reporting. It actually summarizes all the clicks that you need to read, everything that you've got to go through. The best newsletter in the morning comes from Jake Sherman at Punchbowl News. Thank you, Jake. I'll be right back, America. 1-800-520-1234.